As this channel continues to grow, I gotta be honest with you guys. I've been really impressed with some of the trades that you guys have sent me in that you have made yourselves. I did this video a couple of weeks ago about trades that you guys have sent me that I believe are going to win leagues this year, and we're doing the same video again today. Today, I'm highlighting your trades that you have sent in to me and telling you why I believe some of these trades are going to be responsible for winning leagues. As I said, the channel continues to grow. I just hit 5,000 subscribers last week, and I need your help hitting 6. So go down there, drop a like on this video, and subscribe to the channel to show your support. So let's go ahead and just dive right into our first trade right here. So the first trade came in from Gavin Nation 1 right here, and the trade was Dalton Kincaid for Sam Laporta. And the context was, I traded Dalton Kincaid for Sam Laporta at the beginning of the season, and it has paid off. No doubt it has. There's no doubt about it that it has. Listen, at the beginning of the season, before anything started, for those of y'all who have been with me since the offseason, and really for the past several years, you know that I have an issue with the history of rookie tight ends in fantasy football. It typically does not go well. And so when you have a guy like Dalton Kincaid, who was drafted in the first round of the Buffalo Bills, that's already an offense, and he was a player that a lot of people were really interested in coming into the season. So before the season started, it's hard to imagine now, but Sam Laporta was not being discussed at all. I mean, Sam Laporta's name was basically irrelevant in fantasy circles. You could take a deep shot on him because you could get him so late, but for the most part, Sam Laporta was pretty irrelevant in fantasy football. Obviously, it's turned into something great. You can see Sam Laporta's numbers on the screen. This guy is consistently going to be a top 5 tight end in my rankings as the season continues on. I don't care if Amon-Ra St. Brown is in the lineup or not. Sam Laporta is being heavily involved in this Detroit Lions offense right out of the gate, and it's hard to argue with it. The guy has been so good in fantasy football. Why would you just put him on your bench or not target the guy when he's doing so well for you? So obviously, this trade looks great right now. And really one of the reasons it's on here is not only because I do believe this is the type of trade that can win you a league, because Dalton Kincaid is basically irrelevant. He's not startable at this point in fantasy football. But also the other reason that it's on here is because this is the type of trade that you're getting literal massive tight end upside for basically nothing. And the tight end position, if you can get an edge over your opponents, that's key. And Sam Laporta gives you an edge over everybody except the Kelsey owner and sometimes the Mark Andrews owner, depending on how it goes, and maybe the Hawkinson owner. Other than that, you've got a massive advantage over most of your league mates at the tight end position. So obviously, this one's important to do at the beginning of the season, and that's what trading's all about. It's calling your shot on a player. So even if I disagree with one of your trades, I'm not always right. I'm wrong quite often. I have a whole segment about being wrong. But the reality is, if you have conviction on somebody, send in the trade, because not only do you not know what they'll say, and the worst they can say is no, but you're also putting yourself in a situation where it could pay off massively down the road. Gavin Nation, great job on this trade right here. So the next trade came in from Father Meach 1182, and the trade that he sent in was Marquise Brown for DeAndre Swift. This one is, in my opinion, a great trade, and let me tell you why. So obviously, Marquise Brown has not been bad. You can see the numbers on the screen here. He's done very serviceably in fantasy football so far this year. I've got no problem having Marquise Brown on my own team. I don't think he's a bad option at all. But here's what I've been saying really over the past week or so, because at this point, we're heading into week 6 fantasy football. And so we have a pretty decent measure at this point through 5 weeks of what teams are going to be good and which ones are not. And I think to preface this, everybody in here watching is surprised with how well the Arizona Cardinals have done this year. I don't think anybody expected this type of work from the Arizona Cardinals. I think we all just thought this is the number 1 pick in the draft right here. Arizona is very competitive. But the reality is still the same as we thought, which is that they're just not a very good team. Look at the talent from top to bottom. It's just not a good team. Their quarterback is a backup quarterback career-wise. Their running back is now in the IR. And Marquise Brown is the only functional piece in this offense really right now. So my problem with players on bad teams is that the later season upside in fantasy football it typically goes down. And the reason for it is because on a bad team like Arizona, where they're going to lose most of their games, and they'll probably end up like 4-13, 5-12 at best, the Arizona Cardinals are not going to be a team that's going to be competitive when it matters in fantasy football for you. So trading away a player who's been very good to solid level at the beginning of the season for a guy that has not only been tremendous as far as efficiency goes, but he's also on a much better team that has Super Bowl aspirations. So the late season upside here is seriously high because the Philadelphia Eagles are going to be fighting for seeding with the San Francisco 49ers. That means that they're not going to just come out and not give any effort in the last several weeks, much like an Arizona Cardinals team might do. So not only are you getting just a more efficient player with higher upside, but you're getting a player who's on a better offense as a whole, and that matters in fantasy football at the end of the year. I think Swift has a lot of late season upside as long as he can stay healthy, which is the case with everybody on this list. But if you're able to get a healthy DeAndre Swift for a full season behind that offensive line, I'll tell you what, this is a top tier trade right here. I love this trade. Great job, Father Meach, on this trade right here. Our next trade we had up is coming from Braden DeLeon, 8050. And the trade they sent in was Derrick Henry for Jonathan Taylor. And the important piece to note here is that the Jonathan Taylor owner is 0-5. So let me tell you why this trade is on this list right here. I think most people would agree they would take the shot on Derrick Henry over Jonathan Taylor. If you don't, please let me know in the comments. I'm very curious, actually, where my audience lies on this one. For me, this is a very clear answer because what we have seen with Derrick Henry so far this year, as you can see on the screen, is his fantasy production is just not as high as it's been in recent years. This is a bad year for Derrick Henry. And what he is essentially turning into is a volume play. Well, the problem is his volume is down. He only got 13 total carries last week. The volume is down because look at the efficiency. 3.9 yards per carry. That's not efficient enough. So if he doesn't get in the end zone or if he doesn't get enough volume, Derrick Henry's upside is not like we're used to. Jonathan Taylor, on the other hand, while it wasn't clear last week with 10 total snaps, Jonathan Taylor is younger, he's in better shape, and he's going to continue his role in this offense. As Coach Shane Steichen said just a day ago when he said that they were going to get more involved with Jonathan Taylor this week versus the Jacksonville Jaguars. Jonathan Taylor's upside is stupid high. It's stupid high. So the point that this is on here, and this is something that I say in every buy low video that I do at the beginning of every single week, which is that when it comes to buying low on big name guys, specifically big name guys, the importance of knowing the context of the manager and knowing their situation, seeing what the record is, seeing what players they have on the bench, seeing what bye weeks they have coming up. This is important because this is context that is absolutely pivotal. If he wasn't 0-5 and he was maybe 3-2, this might not have happened. But the reality is, this guy was desperate and he needed upside immediately and he needed volume immediately. And Jonathan Taylor wasn't giving that. So to me, this is the perfect sentiment right here of what I always say. It doesn't matter what you think about the trade right off the top. If you believe in somebody and if you want to try to get the best deal for you, send in the offer. The worst they could say is no. That's the worst anyone could say. And the importance of knowing your opponent and knowing what their situation is cannot be understated. It simply cannot be understated. Great job on this trade, Braden DeLeon. This is a trade I think is going to pay off the more and more Jonathan Taylor gets involved in this offense. Moving on to our next trade right here. We got it from Cody Ledbetter, 68. And this is a great trade. I love this one. So the context of this trade is when Nick Chubb went down in week 2, I used my waiver wire 1 pick on Jerome Ford, okay? And offered Ford to the Chubb owner with Mark Andrews for both Pittman and Stephon Diggs. This is trade mastery right here at its finest. Absolutely at its finest. I've said this for weeks regarding Jerome Ford. I think a lot of people overpaid for him. And you can start to see it a little bit. His numbers on the screen, you can see efficiency-wise, he's just simply not that efficient of a running back. And the problem is, he looks better than he is because he's gotten in the end zone and he had that good game against the Pittsburgh Steelers. This player is not as good as Nick Chubb, and he shouldn't be treated as that. But there are people out there that like that idea of getting the backup running back who stepped in nicely during Chubb's absence. And then you also add in Mark Andrews, who's got the big name, and of course he's a great tight end option. As we've discussed earlier in this video, Mark Andrews is a great option. You can see the numbers on the screen. Nobody's fooling anybody. Everybody knows that Mark Andrews is a good option. Essentially what you did here is that you gave up two players who are, as far as their fantasy impact goes, Jerome Ford's is middle tier RB2 at best material. And Mark Andrews, even though he's a tight end 1 in fantasy football for sure, the fantasy impact is not as great when you're getting a Stephon Diggs. Stephon Diggs, of course, is the main attraction here. Stephon Diggs, you can see the numbers on the screen. He's been outstanding this year. Absolutely outstanding. Target hog, and he's playing very, very well, and he's finding the end zone. Stephon Diggs, if you can get him at this type of a price, this is exactly the type of trade that would win a league right here. Because you're sending away two guys who, yes, Mark Andrews is good, but he's not Stephon Diggs level. Both of those guys can get easily outscored by Stephon Diggs. And to get Michael Pittman on top of it, who is a very, very solid flex option right now. Don't love that Anthony Richardson is gone, but I do think that Michael Pittman is still clearly the wide receiver 1 on this team, and he will continue to give you flex-worthy weeks. This is a trade that's mastery right here because, again, context matters. Picking up Jerome Ford off the waiver wire. So you spent fab on him. And then you go and send him to the Nick Chubb owner who is desperate. Desperate, desperate, desperate. Always look for context when you are sending trades in. This is the perfect example of always understanding your league, understanding your league mates, understanding their situation, and understanding where their mood is at and where their mindset is at. Great trade here by Cody Ledbetter. I love this trade right here. So let me know what your best trades have been in 2023 fantasy football so far, and what questions you need answered before week 6 fantasy football. And if you want to see the top 30 running back rankings for week 6 fantasy football, click on this video right here.